We're going to go back live here in just a second.
All right. Start my timer.
Oh, yeah, we're on. And hello, Texas. And I think we have not Ohio, but Kentucky on today with us too, right? Kentucky?
That's technically where I am, though. I'm just across the river from Ohio.
You're just across the river from Ohio.
Yeah.
Well, I've driven through that area one time, and there's, if I remember right, it was a lot of trees, and it's a beautiful area.
It is beautiful.
Beautiful area. Yeah. So anyway, you guys and gals out there in America, this is Adam here with his Credit Ninja, and we're going to talk a little bit about credit and stuff today, or he is. We're going to transition over to his show here in a couple of minutes, and then he's going to be on. I somehow or another, I messed up the, I don't know why our logo isn't up in the top right-hand corner. Why is that?
I don't know.
That's two reasons why. I mean, that's two people that don't know. You're one and I'm the other.
That's
anyway,
right.
What's been going on with you, Adam?
Well, many things. Helping people get access to their business capital. That's what I do day in and day out. Also managing my own business capital, because that's how I learn what I know. And also raising a bunch of kids, which is something you just commented on a moment ago, Fly. So if anyone hears any background noise, some yelling and screaming, it's the whole bundle of kids downstairs just having a good Sunday here. They're high energy today, so there's a lot going on. Never great. A dull moment.
Never a dull moment. And I can tell you this. I saw a guy on Fox News over there, and he was on, and then his kid came through the door, and he's like, he kind of pushed him back. Then the nanny came and got him, and then both kids came in, and she was trying to get him off, and he was like, "Oh boy!" I was like, "That's just what happens. Yeah. That's live TV."
Yeah, that's live TV, and big difference between me and the guy you're talking about. I don't have a nanny, so
you are the nanny.
That's right. Yeah, but someone may still burst in, and we may still have a little chaos, but. It's just that's my life, I guess.
That's what happens. It's live TV, and we welcome it. All right, everybody in the great state of Texas, Louisiana, Tallahassee, Florida, and Washington, D.C. Welcome to Credit Ninja, and Adam, you're on.
Awesome. Well, I brought a little show and tell today. I thought you might like that. Got this right here. What this is this is a big stack of credit cards, and it's just my prop here. This is my stack of active cards that I have in play right now. I've got another stack about twice as high of cards that I've been through in the past and no longer really use or anything like that. So just a little visual aid to help see a bit of what's possible here with this whole credit stacking thing that we do. We call it credit stacking for a number of reasons. One is you can kind of layer your applications for these cards one on top of the other. And so it's kind of stacking in a metaphorical sense, but also in a very literal and physical sense. Here's a stack of credit cards that I got through credit stacking. And I wanted to share a little bit about my journey to this point. So just to go way back to the very beginning, I was born and raised in Oregon, actually, and grew up in a household that really didn't have much to do with credit. I had two very hardworking parents. My mom went and worked her job as a college professor, and then my dad had a business that he did by himself. He was an excavation guy, and I helped him out in the summertime when I was off school. So I knew the value of a day of hard work. And I watched my parents, they carefully saved their cash, they carefully managed their expenses, and they built their wealth up little by little over time. And that worked well for them. That's kind of what I just grew up in and what I thought of as normal. So it wasn't until into my own adulthood that I finally kind of got clued into what credit is and how it might be used. And all that really looked like for me was just, I got a personal credit card, I think sometime around 18 or 19 years of age. and just used it to buy gas, or that was really about all I did with it. So, so that's how it all kind of started. But as you get farther and farther into life, you need credit for other things. Most people use credit to buy a house or buy a car or something like that. And it starts to expand from there. But what a lot of folks don't realize is that your business, if you have a business, your business is kind of its own entity, and it can have its own credit. And it works somewhat similarly to what you're used to with your personal credit. But that's what all this is for me. This is all for my business. And there's some very unique dynamics to business credit that are very advantageous for a business. And it can really accelerate that growth trajectory for most businesses, in contrast to what I saw with my parents as I grew up, where I just watched them get ahead little by little, right? But with a stack of credit like this, and with access to this credit, you can take leaps and bounds and move your business forward at an exponential rate, really. But the key to doing that is all understanding how the credit game works. That took me a lot of trial and error. Sorry about the noise there. So I can tell you more about that, but I think for right now we're doing a commercial break. Is that right, Fly? Oh, did Fly hop off?
You're on, buddy. It's all you, my man. It's all you. Yeah, you got 3 more minutes.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Sorry. Okay. Well, then we'll keep going. So it's not as though I started a business, right out of high school or something like that. Like many people, I went to college. I worked a lot of odd jobs. So for a lot of years, I didn't have any interest or need for business credit. It wasn't until I'd say the last maybe several years that I had a business that would warrant any credit, or that I had any strategy for how I might use it. So that's where I kind of got started into this whole notion of credit stacking. And that's where I learned there's a series of very specific steps that you need to go through to first optimize your personal credit. That is the foundational layer for all of this. And then once your personal credit is strong, then you can go and actually apply for and obtain business credit. And just to give you a few ideas about how the two differ, where someone just with their own income and situation, they might qualify for, let's say, for example, a $10,000 limit on a personal credit card, say like a Citibank card or a Chase Freedom card or something along those lines. We're all pretty familiar with those. So they might qualify for something like that at the personal level, but that same person with that same score and that same credit profile, when they go and apply for their business, they might be able to get access to $30,000, $40,000, even $50,000 on a single credit card. So that's just some of the orders of magnitude that are different between personal credit and business credit. And you can start to see why, when you can just simply access more capital by way of business credit, that opens up a lot more possibilities for how you can put that capital to work to do that exponential growth curve within your business. Now, again, that depends on if you have a clear idea what your business model is, how you will deploy that capital, what kinds of things you would use that credit for in terms of what expenses would actually bring back to your business some income. And with people that I've worked with, a great many scenarios I've seen is where maybe their business is doing fairly well, it's starting to get some traction, but their bottleneck
commercial break here any second now.
Thank you. Their bottleneck might be in marketing. And so they need to spend a lot of money in marketing. They just don't have the money to spend. That's where credit can come in and fill that gap. I'll tell you more about that after the commercials, though.
Good job, Adam.
Thanks.
So for those watching social media, they get to hear us talking here. Great.
Oh, lucky them.
Okay. We don't have a lot. By the way, for you listening on social media, you can listen into our show. We don't have a large audience on social media. We had a huge audience. And then on our first TV go around, and then when I sold the channel, we sold all the social media to go with it. And I thought, hindsight, I'm like, dummy, I should have kept that. Because we worked hard to get that social media,
Oh, sure. Well, and out of curiosity, do you have any sort of stats on how many people are listening in through socials right now?
Yeah, it's small. It's pretty low. Yeah, it's pretty
Okay.
low. Yeah, in the few hundreds. And
It's all
but
right.
the but the but the TV broadcast is where, we know we've got,
Sure.
150,000, give or take, watching during the day, which is pretty
Mhm.
cool. Now, when we go to this other network, that one right there, we're going to have about 1 million a day.
Mhm.
So,
Great.
yeah. But being a new channel too, it takes a minute to penetrate those audiences. So you got to
Mhm.
be on there. You know what I mean? But we're
Mhm.
we're real excited about that. Let's see here where we're at on the commercials here. I think we got, yeah, we're fixing to go back live again. You ready?
Ready.
And you're on.
All right. So we were just talking a minute ago about an example where a business might be prohibited from growing because it can't get enough capital to spend on its marketing. So if it just had access to $10,000 or $20,000, it could put that spend toward marketing, ramp up its ads, and if they did that, they might have 2, 3, or 4 times the amount of revenue come back as to what they spend on their marketing. That's called return on ad spend, or ROAS for short. So the game plan is there. The only missing link is the ability to spend the money in the short term in order to make the money in the long term. And that's where this kind of business capital comes in really handy. So, just picking a card off the top. If I had this card, all I got to do is plug it into Facebook or plug it into Google, and the ads start running. And I don't have to pay that bill for at least 30 days. But really, here's the other amazing thing about business credit. Most of these cards, they have a 12-month term that's 0%. You don't pay any interest during that first 12 months. And that can be crucial for a young business getting started. So what that really means is, let's pretend I get a credit limit for $20,000, but I only need to spend $5,000 a month on my ads. I can spend for 4 months on those ads, and I don't pay any extra. I've got it for 0% interest. So that gives me a chance to run ads for 4 months, just build up that balance on the card. It's not costing me anything extra. And in those 4 months, my ads work. Now I've got all kinds of leads coming in. I can close sales. I'm gaining revenue. My business is growing, and it will grow exponentially faster in that scenario than if I just had my cash in the bank, my 3 or 4,000, and I got to carefully parcel it out for a few ads here and a few ads there that aren't really going to get me very many leads to call back. So that's just one example of how that can look. In my personal experience, I had a remodeling company. And that's where I started looking for large amounts of business credit. And as you can imagine, a remodeling company spends a lot of money. Every time I sold a project, I had to go and buy tens of thousands of dollars in materials before I could start my job. I've got to buy cabinets and countertops and faucets and all these things, right? So it was really hard. In fact, I would say it was really quite impossible for me to run that business on cash only. I really needed credit so that I could make all those initial purchases, get my job going, get the job finished, get paid on the job. And then what I was doing at first is I was then taking my paycheck from my job and paying off my credit card bill. And of course, I had some left over and I could bank that. And that was good. But what do I do when I start landing multiple jobs at a time? What if I want to run multiple crews? And by the way, each person who was on my crew, they needed their own credit card to be able to run down to the hardware store and buy the supplies that they needed on a day-to-day basis. Suppose they forgot a bag of screws or they needed a can of paint. They got to be able to buy that somehow. So I would put a credit card in their hand, and then they could just buy those things as needed. And again, I had leeway on when that bill was due, and I could create cash flow from selling more jobs and finishing more jobs and buffer the expenses on that by the use of it. So that was extremely useful. And once I got the hang of how to use business credit in that way, then my business did grow exponentially. And so I have personally experienced the benefit of this. And any extra credit that I had available to me that I didn't need to plow into my business operations, I could then look for other ways to put that credit to use in some kind of investment strategy as well. So I could create more income streams for myself using this business credit. And that has been a game changer for me. Now, I'm aware that many people, and I would even put myself in this category at one point in time, are wary to get into credit, because we've all heard the stories of how somebody gets in over their head, or they take on a whole bunch of debt, and then a little time passes and they're unable to repay it. And that is a dangerous situation. I don't want to see anybody get in that situation. But if you're in business, you quickly learn you have to take some risks. The best kinds of risks to take are calculated risks. And some of the best bets you can make are on yourself. So if you have an ability, or if you have a business, if you have some means of producing income, and you have some level of certainty around this, it may not be 100%, but it may be 95% certain that you know how to make a widget and sell the widget. If you already know that, and you know you could make more widgets and sell more widgets if you could just buy the materials you need, business credit can get you there.
That's good
and
advice.
You've made a pretty safe bet now that you'll be able to pay the bill when the bill comes due. So that's just some of the strategy level thinking that I think people should go through when they're considering whether or not to get into business credit, and how deep, because it can go really deep.
Yeah.
Just to give you an idea.
We're gonna go to commercial break here in about 15 seconds or so.
Okay.
So that's a lot of cards you had there when you did that opening. I'm like, holy cow, that's a lot of cards.
There's a lot of plastic here. Yeah.
That's a lot of plastic. We'll be right back, guys. Okay, now we're on commercial break here for
just us now.
For a little bit. Yes, it's going to be just us here in just a second.
Cool.
And there we are. Yeah, it's just us now. Yeah, it's a lot of. I'll tell you.